But my particular Seiler memory, for anybody that knew Jeff, he was a Parrot Head, a.k.a. a Jimmy Buffett fan. And when he was living in Wisconsin, he hooked up with the Green Bay chapter of the Parrot Heads, which Paula had a co-worker and friend at the hospital who was also a nurse, who was a huge Jimmy Buffett fan and a Parrot Head.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
She invited Jimmy Buffett to her wedding. And 3 months afterward, got a reply in the mail, a handwritten, on the invitation, there was a handwritten reply of, Mr. Jimmy Buffett will not be attending. And then he signed it. So that, she's a big enough fan, that's framed in the living room for everybody to see.
And a big enough fan that she would have gotten a reply.
Well, it was one of those, when Paula came home and said, "You'll never believe it." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Heather got a response from Jimmy Buffett." And I'm like, "Oh?" And yep, handwritten reply on the RSVP card of, big check mark, no, but, then signed. So they were going to a show, I guess, and the Parrot Heads had rented a bus, a coach bus. And anyone that really knew Jeff knows that he had irritable bowel syndrome. And when he had to go, he had to go. And there were, that's like when we took a road trip to space one year, he had to drive so that when he needed to stop, we would stop without, whining about it type thing. Well,
right.
They all got on the bus got on the road, and Jeff had to go. And so he used the toilet on the bus, which, some people believe that it's okay and other people don't. Well, Jeff had to go, and when he got out of the little toilet, like, the back of the bus stunk to the point that, like, people had all moved to the front of the bus. And I found out about this because Heather knew that we knew Jeff and was talking to Paul about, "Hey, you know that Jeff guy, right?" "Yeah." "Well, you won't believe what he did." "Oh?" And she tells the story, and Paula kind of laughed and went, "Yeah, that's Jeff." And she told me, and I went, "Well, yeah, that's Jeff."
Uh-huh. That's really weird that you would tell that story. There was just an item in the paper about somebody who had that happen on an airplane going from, I didn't memorize it because I didn't know I was going to be referring to this, but there's Jeff Seiler, Comic Art Metaphysics. It was a plane flight from somewhere in the U.S. to Spain, and they actually turned around and came back because of that happening.
The bus wasn't that bad, but Jeff kind of got a reputation as don't sit by him on the bus. Right. So
arguably, you would say never be in an organization with Jeff Seiler where you're going to be on a rent-a-bus, because the odds are this is probably going to happen. Partly just because of irritable bowel syndrome, and partly just because Jeff was Jeff.
Very, very true.
There you go. That's definitely a Jeff Seiler story. And thanks to the Big Pete Comics and Collectibles unopened envelope with the Last Day Raymark catalog. Now that I have one, I can start to auction off the Raymarks. I just need to know which ones we already sold. Basically, I need to know which page numbers of the catalog are still available from AV, and the cartoon doggy will take care of the rest. Thank you, Boner the Runt Dog. And a nice rendition of Boner that you faxed to me there. I will mention parenthetically. And I mentioned this to Rolly, and he's going through the Raymark editions, and through the catalog probably as we speak, and we'll be emailing you a list of the ones that are still available. Some of them did sell. Some of them I gave away as gifts, but there's still at least a part of a box full of them. So we'll be able to get on to that.
So going back to the boner real quick. Well, that's a phrase I didn't expect to say today. This particular Boner the Runt Dog is the Amok Nuts version. When I got the scan of Manly Matt as Linus, I went and did. My first thought was, okay, it's me. There's you. There's Carson, and there's Sean, and Eddie Campbell was on the introduction page of Carson's version of The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. I'm like, it's a real small cast, and I'm going, I know that they've done a skeleton version of Snoopy. I know I've seen this somewhere, so I Googled it and found, yep, there's a Snoopy where he's wearing a unitard it's black with a skeleton on it, and I'm like, well, this won't take me long, so I printed it off. And then I inked it, like, with an actual brush and ink, because this is back when I'm like, I can ink. And so this is technically Boner by Charles Schultz and me.
There you go. And one of the rarest of Charles M. Schultz, Matt Dow collaboration out in the wild.
And I sent the original to Brian West, because I also did Franklin as Brian, or Brian as Franklin, I guess. Which was one of those, I said, hey, I want to do a thing. Can you send me some selfies? And he went, sure. And he sent me a bunch of them. And he kind of had a vague notion of what I was going to do with them. So he was side face, front face. And at one point I was like, okay, you have an afro. Franklin doesn't. How much hair do you want? And so I did it, and I had positioned the character on the page so that he was way too high, so the top of the head was cut off. I'm like, I can fix this digitally. But Brian was like, oh, big, really big. And I'm like, okay. And get it all done, get it scanned, did a strip with Brian as in it, and then Brian posted pictures that he'd gotten a haircut, and I'm like, come on, Brian.
Work with me on this. Work with me on it.
It's like, a muck nut Brian has a fro, and it's never, ever going away, because I did it once.
There you go. Okay, and moving on from there, and then if there isn't anything in the quote, Matt doesn't know about this, but Dave's got a thing we need to mention, unquote, file. We enter the Inquisition, and actually I do have a couple of things that I wanted to mention. One of them, incoming for you, is I haven't gotten very far on the collaboration with Oliver Simonsen on the riffing on Don Martin, the Don Martin Cerebus strips. I just wanted to say to Oliver, he's very self-deprecating about his abilities, and the first panel with the lettering, the many fine ales at the tavern. When I sat down to do it, it's okay. The only thing really quote wrong unquote about this is that the lettering needs to be a little bit higher so that the lines are closer together. But apart from that, I just did Oliver Simonsen's lettering, and it looks exactly like vintage Mad magazine. So first step was a good one. Following that, doing his Oliver's Don Martin Cerebus I actually put tracing paper over his first panel and did the Cerebus head, and just as I expected was going to happen, when I took the tracing paper and just looked at the inked head without the tracing paper, it's a nice cartoony Cerebus, but it doesn't look like Don Martin. Whereas Oliver's Don Martin Cerebus looks like it was done by Don Martin. So I have now I'm sitting down and trying to go, okay, why is that? Why is it that even when I'm tracing Oliver Simonsen, I can't get it to look like Don Martin did it? But Oliver Simonsen can make a Don Martin Cerebus look like it was done by Don Martin. So, not really knowing why that is the case. That's going to take a little bit of analysis, and I'm trying to avoid actually inking directly on Oliver's pencils because it's the only Oliver Simonsen Don Martin Cerebus that I've got that is actually on the artwork. I do want to produce an individual piece of artwork ultimately. So I think what I'm going to do is try and find a way to photocopy Oliver's Don Martin head and enlarge it. I think maybe that's what I'm having trouble with, is it needs to be about 140% larger than Oliver's got it. And but the rest of the Cerebus is fine. It's just a matter of inking it like Don Martin. So I think the next stage is going to be inking Oliver's background, inking the Oliver Simonsen Don Martin Cerebus body, and then enlarging the head and seeing what that looks like at the different enlargements. I'm guessing 140%, could be anywhere between 125 and 150%. But Oliver, stop beating yourself up. You are the solitary genius at doing a Don Martin Cerebus. So far, I don't know. Maybe you'll have a whole studio someday that's producing Don Martin Cerebuses.
I would suggest scan the pencils. Use the high the original art scanner. Just scan the pencils, and you should be able to print them off and have them be pencil-like.
Right. It's that requires an intermediate or an intermediary. In this case, would be Alfonso, and that could take weeks. We're only goes up there on Thursday, so it's like, okay, here's the one that Alfonso printed out. Now I have to worry about the density of the pencil, and I have to worry about the size, because it's like this might be the right density, but it'd be the wrong size. So it could be Christmas before we had the right size, right density. I already thought that. I already thought that's the way that we could do it. I am thinking I could get the scan done, get Rolly to do the scan, and then put it on a thumb drive, and then I'll put it on my laptop and open it up in Pixelmator and just click on image and try different darkness, contrast, automatic developing, desaturate, and then just try doing the slides back and forth, darker, lighter, and then print it out on the office photocopier and see what that does. But I will get there. I am convinced that that there is a destination up ahead, and I will be very pleased when I get there, while keeping the Oliver Simonsen pencils intact, and just as they arrive before I actually do the final inking. But a lot of pressure there, a lot of pressure. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is the next Kickstarter that will be coming up. David Birdsong has to go ahead for his Miracle Man Bark Kickstarter, which is the December issue of Service in Hell. This will be the first time that we're going to be doing a Kickstarter version before we do our traditional shipping to Diamond of the regular edition and the signed edition. The only thing that I've added into the Miracle Man Bark Kickstarter is the Aardvark Vanaheim multi-purpose greeting card, which is also going to double, I believe, as a Miracle Man Bark variant cover. After that, Birdsong's on his own. It's like, David Birdsong, what do you have to do to get a successful Kickstarter going for an individual issue of Service in Hell? And let me know which things worked the best, which things didn't work quite so good, because the next one is going to be me doing the same thing with a Kindle and having to decide things like how many variant covers is too many variant covers, and what's a really good variant cover that people go, wow, that's really clever, I really like that. Sideways from there, thanks to Margaret Liss, I just got your letter in today, where part of what she was doing was enthusing about the T8 variant covers and which ones she was particularly jazzed about, and the Service number 1 variant covers. So it's one of those, it's individual taste, but people that like that sort of thing, that's just the sort of thing that they like.
Dagan sent me 4 of the glossy blank covers, and I'm like, I only need 1 of these. So I went on Facebook and said, I got 3 of these, $50. Who knows what I'm going to put on them? Who knows if it's going to work? But I I believe the way I phrased it was, I'll take requests. I may not fulfill them, but I'll definitely take them. And Margaret was like, yeah, sure, I want one. And I'm like, okay, any requests? And she's like, she wanted the Mucknut Margaret, Service, all 4 turtles, iguana, and beer. And I'm like, all right. And within, I'd say...
You did ask. You did ask.
And within about 40-45 seconds, I went, well, there's only one image with the Mucknut Margaret I can think of that would have all those other characters and would actually work as a cover. So I just ripped off the cover of Service number 1 and put her in the place of Service, the turtles in the place of the barbarians, and then the back cover is where Iguana and Beer and Service show up. And I put a couple gags on the back that I'm not going to spoil for Margaret here. Suffice to say that that Beer is a stickler for the rules of hockey.
Okay. All right.
Well, actually, screw it. Margaret's going to see this because I'm almost done with it. I just got to... The problem with those covers is, because they're glossy, they don't hold anything very well. And I'm like, okay, I'm just using an archival pen to sketch. Actually, I penciled first, and then I went in and I'm going, well, yeah, at this point, the pencil is just a groove on the cover, and whatever I ink is going to go in the groove. And then I actually went out and bought a giant black Sharpie to put the black in, because my regular Sharpie, it's like line, smudgy line. line, smudging. I'm like, what? And I'm waiting because I'm going to ask Dagan, can I get some of the matte covers when they come in? Because the glossy ones are really nice for not doing anything with.
I'll tell you, you've discovered that too. I've tried just about everything on those, and it also takes the ink forever to dry. It's just sitting on there in little inky pools, and it's like this will look really good, but man, is it aggravating doing one of these, which is it's like going back to school, which is part of what compelled me to offer them to the school teachers as an incentive of most improved student. I don't know if you posted that yet.
I did.
Okay. So I've just done another one of those for another school teacher that I heard from, and it's man, just doing a basic Cerebus head with the horn helmet on and putting the leafy bushes on in the background. I have to find one of my ink bottles where almost all of the water is evaporated out of the ink beyond Gene Day level, where I used to say Gene Day used to spot in his blacks by just dipping his index finger and thumb into the bottle of ink and then rolling it around in his fingers and smearing it on the page. This guy was dedicated to solid black. And even at that rate, if Dagan had sat down with Marquis and said, I want you to put a sketch cover on here that is completely impervious to all forms of ink, doesn't take ballpoint, doesn't take archival pen, and doesn't really like Hunt 102, and doesn't really like brush particularly well. It's me trying to make up my bad karma from high school with all of the teachers that I aggravated. This is me aggravating myself.
So really quick, so the gag on the back on the front, it's the Muck Margaret in the Cerebus position holding a hockey stick, going and dropping down onto the four turtles, and on the back it's Beer going, "Hey, that's high sticking," and Iguana looking at him going, "Why don't you go tell her that?"
Yuck, high sticking. We should have a warning. Margaret, block your ears. We'll have you interject that. You want to see this? You want to see this live? You don't want to hear this on Please Hold for Dave.
Well, I'm gonna send her a scan before I post this, so she'll see it. She'll know.
All right, sounds good.